Tea at Taxevity, where you meet people who make life better, our clients and friends. My name is Pramod Sharma and I'm your host. Our guest today is Frank Pegolo, a sales representative with Royal LePage. Welcome, Frank.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I met Frank a number of months ago through Goodyear Toastmasters, where we're both members, and Frank is a sergeant at arms. Now, you've had a varied background, and you've been in the real estate world for a couple of years. Why did you decide to become a realtor?
Quite honestly, because, and I hate to use the word honestly, but I thought it was something I'd enjoy. I had most of my career has been in technology, sales on the business side of things, and through my own company, working for Fortune 500 companies, etc. And I've got a sales and marketing background, and I had taken a bit of time off, and I was thinking what to do next, and I guess I was just out looking for real estate agents on behalf of my wife and her sisters, and I saw this sign, and I started thinking. I asked myself, what kind of job did I enjoy the most? What kind of line of work did I really enjoy the most? And that's what hit me when I worked for Pitney Bowes, and I was a sales rep. I was someone on the road, and I earned my money based on the results that I brought in, and that's exactly the way that works. And also, I thought I'd get a lot of satisfaction out of helping people find their perfect house, or helping people sell their house for as much as they can. And then on the business side, because of on the landlord side, I had an understanding of commercial real estate as well. So I brought some knowledge there, I think, of the market, and I thought also that with my corporate background, I'd have a good story to tell. I'd be able to relate to certain people, and bring a certain amount of professionalism in there, and that I think would make you successful. And ultimately, I think it's something I enjoyed doing, and it's proven the case. Actually, my instincts were correct.
Okay, terrific. Because I think people who have worked in the corporate world have an advantage when it comes to doing things like real estate, insurance, etc., because they've learned disciplines in large organizations, and those can be useful in the kind of work you're doing now.
You make a good point, exactly. You learn disciplines, and the best way to be successful, I think, I'm sure in the insurance business as a broker, but certainly in real estate, which is probably not done enough, is you have to treat it like a business. And by business, I don't mean business in a bad way, because business sometimes has this bad connotation of making money and stealing money from people, etc. But more as a business owner. I mean, it's like everybody goes to work. They don't go to work for free. Everybody who goes to work, they earn a decent living so they can live, as does the business owner. But the business owner's got a few more challenges, and that's making his business profitable, while at the same time providing a good service. Or your business won't be profitable if you don't provide a good service. What working in the corporate world does is if you approach it right. And what I do with my business is I treat my real estate business as a business. Okay. I'm not a commission salesperson. Yes, I am, but I don't treat it as okay, I sell this house, I earn this commission, I earn these dollars. To me, I treat it as a business. I have a marketing budget. I invest a certain amount of my earnings into marketing in various ways, knowing that knowing that it'll turn it into something one day. I actually do true business development. There's a euphemism now that people call business development sales, and sales business development. They're two different things. And so I will do true business development to try and get future revenue. But ultimately, the best way to be successful is to have satisfied clients, satisfied customers. In the Toronto business world, the Canadian business world is very small, and if you don't have happy customers, you're not going to be in business very long. There's not that many to go around. You have to, and that's what I think. What I bring, I have an understanding of that intrinsically, I guess, by having been exposed to it for so many years.
That's great. Now, real estate, buying a home or selling a home, is a very large transaction for most of us.
Yes.
What's the best pricing strategy for selling your home?
I guess it depends. I mean, and I know that sounds nebulous, but it does depend on what you want to do, and on the market, etc. And it depends on what you're comfortable with as well. Just to back up a bit, every house has a price range in any given area. Mm-hmm. So, as an example, you can get two identical houses next door to each other, and they can sell within 2 weeks or a month of each other. They won't sell. The chances of them selling for the exact price are slim to none. Chances are there's going to be a difference between the two, and it's not something you can quantify. It has everything to do with timing. Everything to do with timing, because if as an example, if when one of the houses was for sale, if that was the only house for sale in that neighborhood, mm-hmm. and someone came by that really needed to move into that neighborhood right then, they're probably going to offer more than a different situation where there are 4 or 5 other houses of similar quality on the same street, and you have a one person. Basically, why should I buy your house rather than somebody else's? So my point being is that there's a price range, and the objective is to sell your house, obviously, at the highest end of the range as possible. At the high end of the range rather than the low end of the range. So there's a number of ways to do that. One of them is you price it slightly beyond what you think is the most you think you can get for your house, in the hopes that someone's going to come in and offer you a price slightly below what it's listed at, and then you're happy.
Right, because there's room to negotiate.
A little bit of room to negotiate, yes. Another strategy is to price the house very low, and what you're doing then is you're trying to drive multiple offers. So in the hopes that if you have 4 or 5 people or 6 or 8 people putting in offers on the house, there'll be a bidding frenzy. It's like the piranha feeding frenzy, right, if you will, and hopefully that will drive the price to the top end of the range. The risk with that, though, is if it doesn't sell, then all of a sudden you're left with a house that's listed at below market value, and it's pretty tough to increase your price once you've listed it.
Well, that's a good point. Now, I can see that if you're listing your home at a price below market, then you'll get the multiple offers. So that looks like it could work from the seller's point of view, but mm-hmm. from the buyer's point of view, there are a lot of emotions involved in real estate.
There are.
Is it a good idea to get involved in a bidding war?
Sometimes you don't have a choice.
Okay.
Because if you want to move into a certain area, there are certain areas in the GTA that are incredibly popular for a number of reasons. One specific one is schools. That's always a good driver.
Okay.
And if you truly want to move into the area, you might. That's just one of the things you have to do. Having said that, obviously, if you can avoid it, of course. But sometimes you don't have a choice. What you do need to do, though, is, and it's the hardest thing to do, is keep your emotions in check, and decide. You need to decide yourself before going in. This is what I advise my clients. Mm-hmm. What is the most you're prepared to pay for that house? Period. And don't go a penny over it. You've made your decision. Don't get caught up in it. There's always another house will come along. Houses aren't going to dry up in front of. There's always another one's going to come along. It might take you a number of tries. It's disheartening, but that'll stop you from overpaying. Not necessarily overpaying, because Toronto's market's always so good, but it'll stop you from going beyond what you can handle, what you can carry, what you can personally,
Because that does seem scary, that you get caught up in a bidding war and then you don't know what your limit is. Okay, so you'd say that you know what the number is and just don't exceed that at
exactly.
all.
Be disciplined. I mean, if you're financing the house, which most people are, you'll have already been pre-approved. You'll already be pre-approved by the bank, and if you haven't been, you shouldn't be involved in that.
Right.
Number 2, what you have to bear in mind, that there's 2 aspects to that. There's number 1 is how much will the bank lend you, but there's also will the bank lend you that much for that particular house?
Right.
It used to be that the banks, because of the tightening regulations and such, now we're actually sending appraisers out to the house and For example, if a house is listed at 700,000 and you've paid $1 million for it, and the bank is prepared to offer you 900,000, well, they may or may not give you a $900,000 mortgage on that $1 million house, because if they value it at 800,000, you've got to come up with a difference. So you have to bear that in mind as well. So there's a lot of balls you've got to put into the air. Either you have to, so you have to have two things if you're in a bidding war. Number one, you need to, in my opinion, and this is only my advice, have the hard number. Don't go beyond the hard number, unless for some reason you think you can. Number two, you have to be sure that if for some reason the bank's not going to value the house that high, that you've got some assets, some way to make up the difference, which means you'll have to come up with a bigger down payment.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Right, because I thought that if a house was sold at a certain price, that is the market price. It's worth that amount, but maybe it isn't from the viewpoint of the bank.
Exactly. I mean, and I think most times it is, and I only say this not because I have any empirical evidence. You'd know that something like that would hit the press if that was happening a lot.
Right.
You'd know that. So typically, I think, the market, it's a free market. So the market, in a sense, the only one of the few things left there is free market. So in a sense, the market does take care of itself. It really does. If you're a free, if you believe in the free market. So the chances of something going really crazy over, they don't happen that often. Although it might look like it happens, it doesn't happen as often as people think. Because when if you see, in the press, you see, and I know there was one in particular, and I won't say the address, but in the North Toronto, there in the kind of Young Eglinton area, that one that had like 70 odd offers, I believe.
70?
Something or 50. It was an insane amount of offers, and it went for. Didn't go for 100% over asking, but it went for pretty darn close, like 50 or 60% over asking. I mean, I'm pulling numbers out of my head, but
that's an extreme case.
It was very extreme. But what they did is they had priced it so far below market, and it's such a popular area that people were attracted. But it probably sold at, and the person that bought it was probably going to build a new house on it, I think. But the person that bought it probably knows what they're doing, and they know that if they have to build something new, they can resell. The market can carry that. So the extreme cases, there's usually a reason for it. So the market does take care of itself. So to answer your question, I don't know for a fact, but it probably doesn't happen as often. But there is that risk, and you want to make sure that A, you can carry it, and B, the bank's going to lend you the money that you hope they're going to lend you for that particular house. Right. So there's a certain amount of so there's nothing wrong with getting involved in the bidding war. You got to it's tough to put your emotions in check, because if you don't win the bid, then yes, you're going to be very disappointed. It happens, but you have to bear in mind there's always another one.
Right.
And if you miss it, if you lose that offer, just put it behind you, go on to the next one, and you might find a better one. You never know.
Well, it looks like with real estate, it's important to have the right agent on your side. When people select you, what reasons do they give for picking you over other agents?
God, I wish they'd give me an actual list, because then I could use that as a reference. But I think they select me, I guess, for the reasons that I got into the business before. I mean, there's a likability factor. I mean, people like to work with people they like. It's as simple as that. If you don't, and they'll select me if there's a connection there, if we click, if we understand each other. I think they pick me for that. They pick me because, I like to think that they pick me because in their heart of hearts, they feel that I always have their best interest at heart. And it's not because we have a contract saying that I have to do that. It's because I truly want to do that.
Right.
And I do. And I'm genuine about it. I do. Any of my clients, I fight for them. They're my client. So I take ownership. And I protect them if I have to. So, and this may kind of sound kind of silly, but, and I'm not saying that goes through my mind, but I take my role very seriously, and that my job is to do the best I can for the client, and I'm very serious about that. And I like to think, and I think, and I like to think that's the main reason. I hope it is, because that's what I like doing. I mean, that's how I like to approach my business.
Yeah, we definitely need more people with that kind of thinking. Now, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to contact you?
Best way to contact me is either on my cell, 416-402-4665. My email directly is frank@frankpegolo.com or .ca. It'll always get to me.
Yeah, and we'll show this on the screen so
Exactly.
people will be able to get this.
So either you can call me directly on my cell or email me directly. I will get back to you very quickly. You can also call my office. They will relay the message if you wish, but I've got voicemail. Call me directly. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay, well, thanks for dropping by, Frank.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us for Tea at Taxevity. The Taxevity Insurance Advisory helps you understand insurance and bridges gaps in your coverage. There's no premium for peace of mind. How healthy is your insurance?